I was driving to my stepdaughter's apartment to drop off some groceries. But when I spotted my wife's car already there, something didn't feel right. What I discovered next shocked me to my core. I'll tell you the whole story. But first, thank you so much for watching Granny's Twisted Tales. Your support keeps us going. If you love these stories, please hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We might give you a shout out. Today's special shout out goes to Maria Rodriguez from Phoenix. We love having you here. Now let's dive into this story. I always believed in second chances. After my husband died 5 years ago, I thought I'd never love again. The grief was too heavy, too deep. Then I met Robert at a coffee shop downtown. He was kind, patient, and came with an 18-year-old daughter named Ashley. I was 52, he was 47, and somehow we made it work. My daughter Emma was suspicious at first. She kept asking if I was sure about. But I brushed off her worries. Love makes you do crazy things, right? Robert moved in after we got married. I put Ashley on my insurance plan and helped pay for her community college classes. When she wanted to get her own place, I co-signed the lease and bought her furniture. Emma wasn't happy about it. "Mom, are you sure they're not using you?" she asked one day. Her voice was tight with worry. "It's not about being used," I told her. "It's about building a family." She just shook her head and walked away. Thought she was being jealous. I believed that if I kept showing up, kept being generous, everything would work out. So when I was driving past Ashley's apartment complex that Tuesday afternoon, it felt natural to stop by. I had picked up some groceries she mentioned needing: milk, bread, some of those expensive organic snacks she liked. But when I turned into the parking lot and saw Robert's silver Honda parked right by her door, my stomach dropped. It wasn't that he was there. They could visit each other. It was how the car was parked. Crooked, rushed, like he'd been in a hurry. I don't know what made me park across the lot instead of walking right up to the door like usual. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way the curtains were pulled tight even though it was the middle of the day. I grabbed the grocery bags and walked slowly toward the building. The front door was propped open. Ashley always did that when it got stuffy inside. As I got closer, I heard voices from her ground floor window. Robert's voice, low and serious. "She's getting older and more trusting. This is our chance," he said. My heart stopped. I froze right there on the sidewalk, grocery bags heavy in my hands. Ashley's voice came next, sharp and clear. "But what about Emma? She's always been suspicious of us. What if she convinces Mom to change everything back?" There was a pause. Then Robert again. "That's why we need to start showing Emma in a bad light. Make your stepmom think Emma is selfish and only cares about money. Plant those seeds now." The blood in my veins turned to ice. I couldn't breathe. I quietly set the bags down and pulled out my phone. My hands shook as I started recording. I stood there for 10 more minutes, hidden behind a car, listening to them plan my destruction like they were discussing the weather. They talked about my savings account, my house, even my late husband's life insurance money. Ashley laughed at one point and said, "Once Emma is out of the picture and thinks you don't trust her anymore, we'll have everything locked down." Robert replied, "She never really accepted me anyway. This way, she won't get a penny." That's when I realized this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment conversation. This was a carefully planned scheme. And the two people I'd trusted most in the world, my husband and his daughter, were the ones holding the knife to my back. I backed away quietly, leaving the groceries on the ground. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold my phone. When I reached my car, I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at Ashley's apartment. That place I'd helped furnish, where I'd spent Sunday afternoons watching movies and eating pizza. Now it felt like a crime scene. Because that's what it was. The scene of my betrayal. I didn't go home right away. I couldn't face Robert, not yet. Instead, I drove to my lawyer's office and demanded an emergency meeting. When Susan played back the recording, her face went pale. "This is serious," she said. "They're not just talking, they have a detailed plan." I nodded, feeling numb. I want to change everything, I told her. Take Robert and Ashley out of my will. Protect Emma. Draw up divorce papers. Susan looked at me carefully. Are you absolutely sure? I had never been more sure of anything in my life. That night was the longest of my life. I lay in bed pretending to sleep when Robert came home around midnight. He moved quietly like he was trying not to wake me, but I was wide awake listening to every sound. The soft rustle of his clothes, the buzz of his phone lighting up. These little nighttime sounds used to comfort me. Now they felt sinister, like sharing a bed with a stranger who was plotting against me. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how long they'd been planning this. Weeks. Months. Had I missed obvious signs? The next morning I left early. Robert called out from the shower. Have a good day, honey. And it almost made me sick. It took everything I had not to march back there and confront him. But I wasn't ready yet. I needed more proof, more evidence of what I was dealing with. So instead of going to work, I drove back to Ashley's apartment and parked where I could watch. After about an hour, Robert's car pulled up again. He went inside without knocking like he belonged there. I waited 10 minutes, then crept back to that same spot by the window. This time their voices were clearer. They were in the living room just a few feet from where I was hiding. Do you think she suspects anything? Ashley asked, sounding worried. No way, Robert said confidently. She's been completely normal. If anything, she's been extra nice lately. Probably feeling guilty about something. Ashley laughed. Guilty about what? Robert's voice turned cold. Who knows? Maybe she's starting to realize Emma was right about us all along. The cruelty in his voice made my stomach turn. Then Ashley said something that made me want to scream. Emma is such a brat. Always acting like she's protecting mommy from the big bad stepdad. She didn't earn anything. She just got lucky being born first. Robert agreed. Exactly. She's had it easy her whole life. Never had to work for anything. At least we're putting in effort to be family. I pressed my back against the wall, fighting back tears. My daughter Emma, who worked 2 jobs to pay for nursing school. Emma, who called me every day to check on me. Emma, who had seen through their lies from day one. I talked to my friend who works at that law firm, Ashley continued. She said if you die married and there's no updated will, I get treated like a biological daughter. And if Emma looks bad enough, like she's been distant or ungrateful, that helps our case even more. Robert's voice dropped to a whisper. Perfect. We need to document everything. Every time Emma cancels plans, every argument, every time she seems selfish. Create a paper trail that shows she's been pulling away from family. My heart shattered into a million pieces. They weren't just stealing my money. They were destroying my relationship with my daughter. I couldn't listen anymore. My hands were shaking so violently I nearly dropped my phone. These people, my husband, my stepdaughter, were plotting to turn me against my own child. They were going to poison every memory, twist every interaction, just to get their hands on money that wasn't theirs. I stumbled back to my car, gasping for air like I'd been underwater. The recording was still going, but I couldn't bear to hear another word. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at nothing, trying to process the depth of their betrayal. Back at the lawyer's office, Susan listened to the new recording with growing horror. This is beyond theft, she said quietly. They're planning psychological manipulation. They want to isolate you from your daughter. She looked at me with genuine concern. How are you holding up? I'm not, I admitted. But I will be. We spent the next hour building a fortress around my assets. Emma would inherit everything. Robert and Ashley would be completely removed from all documents. The house would go into a trust they couldn't touch. And Robert would be served with divorce papers once everything was legally bulletproof. Don't let them know what's coming, Susan warned. If they realize you're onto them, they might get desperate. That evening, I came home to find Robert cooking dinner. He kissed my cheek and asked about my day like nothing had happened. I looked at this man I'd shared a bed with, laughed with, cried with, and felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just emptiness. He handed me a plate and chatted about his work, smiling the whole time. But now I could see what Emma had seen from the beginning. It was all performance. I excused myself early, claiming I had a headache. As I lay in the dark that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in days: control. I had evidence. I had a plan. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I had hope. The next few days were the hardest acting job of my life. Every morning I woke up next to a man who was planning to destroy my family. Every conversation was a lie. Every smile was poison. But I played my part perfectly, nodding when he spoke, asking about his day, pretending everything was normal. Meanwhile, I was watching everything. How he checked his phone when he left the house, what he said when Ashley called. When he left his laptop open one morning while he showered, I took a quick look at his messages. What I found made everything worse. Text after text between him and Ashley, planning their next moves. "Just keep being sweet to her," one message read. "Make her think we really love her." Ashley had replied, "Don't worry, I've got this. She's completely fooled." That word, fooled, cut deeper than anything else. By the end of that week, my lawyer had finished the paperwork. Robert was completely removed from everything. No access to my accounts, no rights to make medical decisions, no claim to anything I owned. My will was rewritten with language so tight that even the best lawyer couldn't break through it. Emma was now my sole beneficiary and the trustee of my estate. I hadn't just locked them out. I'd built a wall they could never climb. When I called Emma to explain what was happening, she was quiet for a long time. "Are you okay, Mom?" she finally asked. I could hear the worry in her voice, but also something else, relief. "I'm getting there," I told her. "And Emma, you were right about them. I should have listened." She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't gloat or lecture me. She just said, "I love you, Mom. I'm here for whatever you need." That simple statement meant more to me than any apology could have. My daughter had tried to protect me, and I'd pushed her away for people who saw me as nothing but a paycheck. The explosion came 2 days later. Robert must have tried to access one of our joint accounts online and found it frozen. He called me at work, his voice carefully controlled. "Hey, the bank website isn't letting me log in. Did you change the password?" Play dumb. "That's weird. Maybe it's a technical problem. I'll call them later." But that evening he was more persistent. I tried calling the bank. They said my access was revoked. "What's going on?" Kept my voice steady. "Oh, there were some security concerns. I had to update everything." He didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes. By the next morning he was angry, pacing around the kitchen, slamming cabinet doors. "Why can't I access any of the accounts?" he demanded. "What kind of security concerns?" I looked him straight in the eye. "The kind that require lawyers," I said calmly. His face went white, then red. "Lawyers? What are you talking about?" I shrugged, pouring myself coffee like it was any other Tuesday. "Just protecting what's mine. You understand, right?" That night, he slept in the guest room. I didn't ask why. The divorce papers were served the next afternoon. I made sure he wasn't home. I had them delivered to his workplace where there would be witnesses. Within an hour, my phone was buzzing with calls and texts. The messages started confused, then became desperate, then angry. "Why are you doing this?" one text read. "We can work this out," said another. By evening, his tone had shifted completely. "You're making a huge mistake. You'll regret this." I didn't respond to any of them. There was nothing left to say. The next day he showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me. "Robert is here. He says it's urgent." I debated turning him away, but I wanted to look him in the eye one more time. "Send him in," I said. He walked in looking nothing like the calm, charming man I'd married. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. He looked desperate and dangerous. "What is this?" he said, waving the divorce papers. Why are you destroying our family? I didn't stand up. I just looked at him, really looked at him. How long? I asked quietly. How long what? He stammered. How long have you and Ashley been planning to cut Emma out of my will? His mouth opened and closed like a fish. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and played a few seconds of the recording. His voice filled the room. Make your stepmom think Emma is selfish and only cares about money. He went completely still. That's not. You don't understand the context, he started. I understand perfectly, I said. You were going to poison me against my own daughter to steal her inheritance. He collapsed into the chair across from my desk. For a moment, he looked genuinely shocked, like he couldn't believe he'd been caught. Then he tried one last manipulation. It wasn't like that, he said softly. Ashley was just scared. She wanted security. We weren't going to hurt anyone. I stared at him in amazement. Even now, caught red-handed, he was still lying. You were going to hurt Emma, I said. You were going to make me believe my daughter didn't love me. That's not security, that's evil. He had nothing to say to that. After he left my office that day, I sat in the quiet for a long time. I kept thinking about what he'd said. You don't understand the context. But I understood perfectly. There was no context that made their betrayal acceptable. No excuse that justified poisoning a mother against her child. No reason good enough to plot the destruction of someone who had loved you. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly free. The man who had shared my bed, my home, my heart, had revealed himself to be a stranger. And strangers couldn't hurt me anymore. 4 days after that confrontation, Robert barely contacted me. Maybe he was trying to figure out how much I knew. Maybe he was planning his next move. But then came the public fallout, where private betrayal becomes everyone's business. It started when I ran into my neighbor Janet at the grocery store. She'd always liked Robert, said he was good for me after losing my first husband. I heard you two are having problems, she said carefully. I smiled politely. We're divorcing. It turns out he wasn't who I thought he was. Her eyes widened. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. That's such a shock. He nodded. Sometimes the biggest shocks come from the people closest to us. By the time I got home, I'm sure Janet had called half the neighborhood. I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them wonder. The truth would come out eventually. And when it did, I wanted to be the one who'd been honest from the start. Robert, on the other hand, seemed to be spinning his own version of events. I heard through the grapevine that he was telling people I'd become paranoid and suspicious for no reason. The final confrontation came a week later. Robert showed up at the house around 9 p.m., using his key one last time. I was in the living room reading when I heard the front door open. We need to talk, he said, standing in the doorway like he still belonged there. I set down my book and looked at him. He was dressed nicely, wearing the blue shirt I'd bought him for his birthday. I wondered if that was intentional, if he thought it would remind me of better times. I don't know how to fix this, he said, sitting down across from me. Try telling the truth, I replied. Just once, try being honest. He ran his hands through his hair. I was scared, he said finally. Ashley is all I have left. When I saw how much you loved Emma, how you'd do anything for her, I got jealous. I wanted that for my daughter too. I leaned forward. So your solution was to destroy my relationship with Emma? To make me think my own daughter was using me? He looked down. It wasn't supposed to go that far. But it did, I said. You and Ashley didn't just want security. You wanted to replace Emma entirely. You wanted me isolated and dependent on you. His face crumpled. I love you, he whispered. I really do love you. I stood up slowly. No, you don't. You love what I can give you. You love my house, my money, my resources. But you don't love me enough to be honest. You don't love me enough to protect my relationship with my daughter. He stood too, tears in his eyes now. What happens now? He asked. I looked at this man who had shared my life for 2 years and felt nothing but pity. Now you sign the divorce papers and disappear from my life. You take what you came with and nothing more." His expression changed then, shifting from sadness to anger. "You're heartless," he spat. "After everything we built together, you'd throw it all away over a misunderstanding." I didn't flinch. "You threw it away the moment you decided to use me. I'm just cleaning up the mess." He left that night, slamming the door behind him. I never saw him again. The next week was a blur of paperwork and phone calls. Emma came over every day, helping me sort through Robert's belongings, changing locks, updating emergency contacts. One afternoon, we were packing up his clothes when she found a notebook in his nightstand drawer. "Mom," she said quietly, "you need to see this." Inside were pages of notes about my daily routine, my friendships, my financial habits. At the bottom of one page was a list titled, "Ways to Isolate Her from Emma." My hands shook as I read it. Emma put her arm around me. "I'm so sorry you went through this," she said. "But I'm proud of you for seeing the truth." I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She had my eyes but her father's stubborn chin. She had worried about me from the beginning, tried to protect me, and I'd almost lost her because of two manipulators who saw love as weakness. "I should have listened to you," I said. "You were right about them from day one." She squeezed my hand. "What matters is that you listened to yourself when it counted." After Robert left for good, the house felt different. Not empty, liberated. I walked through the rooms, touching furniture I'd forgotten I owned, opening curtains that had been closed too long. Everything felt lighter, cleaner, more like home. I started redecorating, not to erase Robert's memory, but to reclaim my space. I put up photos of Emma and me, trips we'd taken, memories we'd made. I filled the guest room with my craft supplies, turned his office back into my reading nook. Every change felt like healing. Emma started coming around more often. At first, it was practical. Helping with legal paperwork, updating insurance policies, dealing with the logistics of divorce. But eventually, our conversations became deeper, more honest. "Why did you trust him so completely?" she asked one evening as we sat on the porch sharing ice cream. I thought about it for a long time. "Because I was lonely," I admitted. "Because I thought if I loved hard enough, fast enough, I could build something real. I forgot that real love takes time to grow." She nodded thoughtfully. "I was afraid you'd choose them over me," she said quietly. "When you got married, when you started helping Ashley with everything, I felt like I was being replaced." My heart broke hearing that. "You could never be replaced," I told her. "You're my daughter, my blood, my heart." I lost sight of that for a while, but I never stopped loving you. We sat in comfortable silence after that, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. Word spread slowly through our small town. Robert and Ashley didn't fight the divorce publicly. They couldn't, not with recordings and evidence stacked against them. But I heard rumors about their version of events. According to them, I'd become paranoid and controlling, turned against them by a jealous daughter. Let them tell that story. Anyone who really knew me, knew Emma, could see through those lies. My sister called from across the state. "I never liked him," she admitted. "Something about the way he looked at your house like he was already measuring for new furniture." I laughed at that. "Why didn't you say anything? Would you have listened?" she asked. I thought about it honestly. Probably not. I needed to see it for myself. That was the hardest truth of all. That love can make us blind to even the most obvious red flags. But it was also liberating. I had learned to trust my instincts again, to value my daughter's wisdom, to protect what was truly precious. One day, while cleaning out old paperwork, I found a photo from Robert's and my wedding day. We looked happy, hopeful, genuine. I stared at that photo for a long time, trying to find some sign of deception in his smile, some hint of the betrayal to come. But there was nothing. Maybe he had loved me in his limited way. Maybe the plan with Ashley developed later, born from greed and opportunity. Or maybe he'd been a skilled actor from day one. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I'd found the strength to choose my real family over the illusion of a perfect blended one. I tore up the photo and threw it away. Emma and I started new traditions. Sunday dinners became sacred. Just the two of us, no phones, no distractions. We cooked together, tried new recipes, talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her job at the hospital, her dreams of becoming a nurse practitioner, the guy she'd been seeing who made her laugh. I told her about my plans to travel, maybe take that pottery class I'd always wanted to try. Definitely spoil whatever grandchildren she gave me someday. These conversations felt real in a way that dinner with Robert and Ashley never had. One evening, Emma brought up something that had been bothering her. Do you think they would have actually gone through with it? Making you think I didn't love you? I considered the question carefully. Yes, I said finally. I think they would have done whatever it took. That's what makes it so scary. They weren't just stealing money. They were willing to destroy relationships, poison love, break hearts. That level of manipulation takes a special kind of cruelty. He shuddered. I'm glad you figured it out when you did. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October. I didn't celebrate, didn't throw a party or go out with friends. I just sat in my garden with a cup of tea, watching the leaves change colors. The legal papers said I was single again, but I didn't feel single. Felt whole. I felt like myself for the first time in years. Emma called that evening. How are you doing, Mom? She asked. Free, I replied. I feel free. And I meant it. Free from lies, free from manipulation, free from people who saw my love as something to exploit. That weekend, Emma and I went through my jewelry box together. I found the necklace Robert had given me for our first anniversary. A simple gold chain with a heart pendant. What should I do with this? He asked. Emma examined it thoughtfully. It's actually pretty, she said. Maybe we can have it melted down and made into something new. Something that's just yours. I loved that idea. Taking something that represented deception and transforming it into something honest and beautiful. We drove to the jeweler's that afternoon and had it redesigned into a simple band ring with Emma's birthstone. Now, months later, I wear that ring every day. Not as a reminder of betrayal, but as a symbol of survival, of choosing truth over comfort, reality over fantasy. My life is quieter now, smaller in some ways, but infinitely more genuine. I have my daughter back. Really back, not just physically present but emotionally connected. I have my independence, my self-respect, my ability to trust my own judgment. I lost a husband and stepdaughter, but I gained something more valuable. Myself. Sometimes people ask if I regret marrying Robert, if I wish I'd never opened my heart again after losing my first husband. The answer is complicated. I regret the betrayal, the lies, the months of feeling foolish and used. But I don't regret trying to build a family. I don't regret believing in love, even when it was misplaced. What I learned is that real love doesn't require you to ignore red flags or silence your instincts. Real love doesn't ask you to choose between your old family and your new one. Real love enhances what you already have. It doesn't replace it. Emma graduated from nursing school last month. I was there in the front row, cheering louder than anyone. As she walked across that stage, I thought about how close I came to missing this moment, to letting Robert and Ashley's poison convince me that my daughter didn't deserve my support. The thought still makes me sick. But it also makes me grateful. Grateful that I woke up in time. Grateful that I chose to listen to that voice in my gut that said something was wrong. If you're watching this and something about my story sounds familiar, if you have people in your life who want you to choose them over your children, over your family, over your instincts, please listen to that small voice of doubt. Love should never require you to abandon the people who truly matter. It should never ask you to ignore obvious problems or silence your concerns. And it should never ever ask you to betray your own children. Trust is earned over time, not demanded immediately. Protect what's precious to you, even if it means making difficult choices. I still live in the same house, but it feels completely different now. The rooms are brighter, the air is cleaner, the silence is peaceful instead of tense. I've started dating again. carefully, slowly, with Emma's input and my own hard-won wisdom guiding me. I'm not afraid of love, but I'm much better at recognizing what real love looks like. It looks like honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. It looks like respect for existing relationships. It looks like patience and consistency and genuine care for your well-being. My will is simple now. Everything goes to Emma, the daughter who tried to protect me even when I wouldn't listen. The daughter who never asked for anything but loved me unconditionally. The daughter who forgave me for doubting her and welcomed me back with open arms. That's what real family looks like. Not the performance Robert and Ashley put on, but the steady, unglamorous, everyday love that shows up when it matters most. I may have lost a marriage, but I found something more valuable. The unshakable bond between a mother and daughter who choose each other every single day. If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting what matters most, you know how hard that choice can be. But I'm here to tell you that the temporary pain of standing up for yourself is nothing compared to the lasting damage of staying silent. Trust your instincts. Protect your real family. And never ever let someone convince you that love requires you to betray the people who've earned your loyalty through years of genuine care. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to walk away from someone to protect your family? Your story could help someone else find their courage. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from Granny's Twisted Tales.